Um, well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to everybody that's here. Like to send our prayers to our Louisiana Conference USA friends and families down there in the midst of the hurricane that just passed through. Hoping everyone down there is safe and that they get back on their feet and get back to normal as soon as possible. Obviously, big week, game week for us here at Marshall. Really excited about the opportunity to, one, start this season, two, to play a phenomenal opponent in Navy. Going to present a lot of challenges for our team. We are working towards being ready. I told the team yesterday we are not ready yet because they still allow us to have 4 more days of preparation. And in order for us to be successful on Saturday, we're going to have to maximize those 4 days. So really excited about the opportunity. One, two, really thankful for getting through camp as healthy as possible. Hats off to our team. Very tough camp. Not what they've been used to, not what they've done in the past. We put a lot on them. We put a lot on them from a mental standpoint, physical standpoint, asked them to make some sacrifices in how they went about their day. They were able to do that. Now we got to go out and execute, and that's what it's going to come down to. We've prepared extremely well. Now we got to go out and execute, and that's what it's going to come down to. So thank you guys again for being here, and I'll open up the questions.
Coach, we talked to the players as that opening week. This is significant for you as well. How excited, I don't know if that's the right word, eager, anxious, what would be the adjective to describe how you feel this week?
I'm excited. Obviously, it's an opportunity for us to go out and show what all the hard work we've put in over the last 8 months, since we got here. Like I told the team, one game is not going to determine our season. So regardless of the outcome of the game, we still have a lot of football left ahead of us. Our goal is to go out and execute well and consistently and be able to improve. We want to improve from, winter conditioning to spring ball to the first scrimmage to the second scrimmage, from the first game to the next game all the way down. And I think that's got to be our focus, one play at a time for 60 minutes. But, yeah, I'm excited. I get an opportunity to lead a phenomenal football team in the battle against a phenomenal opponent. I mean, where else would I rather be? I mean, the only other option is I'm a writer like you guys and get to sit around and make predictions, and that would be boring.
Nah. Coach, for you, jumping off Keith's question there, I mean, is it a little bit poetic that your first game as a Division I head coach happens? How far is it away from where you live, where you grew up? It's got to be a pretty surreal feeling.
Yeah, probably a little about an hour away from where I grew up. There's about 7 or 8 other schools that I would rather play in that area, just based on the complexity of what Navy does. But yeah, it's an opportunity for me to go back to an area where I grew up, an area where I've recruited for a very long time. A lot of friends and family in that area. Obviously, a lot of people pulling for the herd. None of those people can make any plays, tackles, or catches. But yeah, it's definitely an opportunity to kind of start off where I started, if that makes sense. So I'm excited about that. Ultimately, like I tell you guys, it's not about me. It's about the 125 guys that are going to be pulling together to try to get this done.
How many games at Finney at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium have you attended? And if you have, how do you try and convey that type of atmosphere to your guys? Because it is one of the unique atmospheres in college football.
Yeah, I've never been to a Navy game. In recruiting, I've been to the stadium because they used to play the Maryland State High School Championship there. So in recruiting, I've been to some high school games there. This will be my first Navy game. Obviously, the tradition is phenomenal. It's one a little bit of the areas that you want to check off on your list. Where do you want to play a game, or what type of environment do you want to be in? This is right up there at the top, and I think our guys one should be thankful to have the opportunity to take part in such a historical tradition at a historical stadium. But at the end of the day, like I tell my guys, it's practice with 50,000 people, 40,000 people. That's what it is. The field's 153 and a third. It's still 11 on 11. We still got to execute. We're just doing it with 40,000 people there. And if we can take that mindset, it won't matter if the midshipmen are there, the cadets are there in their uniforms. The pregame ceremonies that they have that are phenomenal. I'm hoping they have a flyover. We won't be out there for it, but I'm hoping they do have a flyover. So I'm trying to get our guys to understand that all of that is great, but it still comes down to what we do every single day here on our practice field.
Coach, peeking at the depth chart that just came out, Shane Simpson at the end, he's a guy you had a connection with going back to Penn State. He comes into Marshall now. He's going to be starting on Saturday. Just tell me about the camp that he had and what he brings to the table for you guys.
Yeah, well, I'm not a big depth chart guy, as you guys can see. Jason Coyer and Chuck McGill put that together because really I don't know who's going to start. I'll be dead honest with you. And that's not coach speak. If we start out on the goal line, we're going to start a different group of guys than if we start out on 50. If we start out in nickel defense, we're going to start a different group of guys than we start out in dime. So, yeah, there are some names listed. Shane is one of those guys who has come in and done a really good job of buying into Marshall. Sometimes when you get transfers, they come in, they put on the uniform, but they still are wearing the colors of where they came from. By their attitude, by their actions. Shane's the total opposite of that. Shane's a young man that I recruited out of DeMatha High School when I was at Penn State. Developed a really good relationship with his family. He had an opportunity where his career ended at Penn State and thought about, moving on into the world and found out that he still loved the game and wanted to take another shot at it, and it fit for us. We had some openings. He brings a lot of depth to our D-line. He brings a lot of character to our D-line. They call him Sugar, for Sugar Shane, the boxer. The one thing I think he really brings to our D-line is he has a really extensive knowledge of the game. He understands pass pro. He understands guard pull. He understands down blocks. He understands formation recognition. And he's able to kind of help some of our other guys who have a really good knowledge of that as well continue to do that. So I talked to him the other day. I think he's got like 50 people coming to the game. They're all fired up. I'm fired up for him as well as the rest of the guys on our defensive front.
Coach, got a strategy question I got to ask you about the offensive Navy. It's a triple option. It's very hard to defend. So what has been the mindset for you and Coach Goodger and the rest of the defensive staff heading into this weekend against Navy?
Yeah, it's very difficult, and it's difficult because obviously it's still 11 guys. Everybody's blocking, tackling, getting the same angles, but it's more difficult because kids don't see it as much anymore. It's 50 years ago, everybody ran the triple. Nobody threw the ball down the field. As college football has changed, nobody runs a triple. In high school, they don't see it on the 7-on-7 circuit. They don't go to these rival camps and work triple option, dive, read, reaction drills. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to get your kids exposed to something in a short period of time that when you get to the field or to the game is going to be full speed, blocking, tackling angles. I think what Navy presents as such a big challenge is they've been doing this for a very long time. They're very good at what they do. They believe in what they do. The coaching staff is not wavered by, one play that doesn't go well. I don't think last year was very indicative of what Navy offense and football was all about. We know the restrictions that not only the country went through, but Navy specifically went through. So when you're preparing your team, you're trying to get them to understand not only how you're going to defend it defensively, but what they're trying to do to you offensively. Now, it's a little bit different for us because we're trying to do both of those things, and we're trying to install a new defense, and we're trying to install a new offense, and a new special team. So we couldn't put so much time in the Navy that the rest of our season we can't run our regular offense or our regular defense or our regular special teams. So that's where the challenges come, and I think that's what Navy has been able to kind of benefit off of for a very long time. You know, they're good at what they do. They don't do a lot as far as they're not lining up in triple and then empty and then triple and then empty. They're consistent at what they do. There's only a handful of ways to defend the triple option. So they've seen all the coverages, all the fronts, all the twists, all the stunts. They've seen it all, so they're able to kind of react a little bit quicker than defenses that don't see the triple as much.
Coach, can follow up to that. Last year, Coach Kent, he didn't have his guys tackle until BYU that Labor Day night, and then they kind of, as the year went on, they got better. So do you look at the 2020 film a little bit, or do you also look at the 2019 film, considering that the first time they tackled guys was that opening night game?
Yeah, well, for us, we've looked at the last 4 years because if you do your research on Navy, traditionally, when they've had a down year, they've bounced back with a phenomenal year. And that's what we've been really preaching to our guys. We're watching last year's film from a personnel, who's number 9, who's number 10, who's number 11, just getting a gauge of the personnel. But as far as the philosophy of who they are, we've kind of went back 4 and 5 years to let them know, okay, hey, they had some challenges last year. They weren't able to prepare the way they've been traditionally prepared. But when they've had situations like this in the past, this is how they've responded. So we've been watching film of Malcolm Perry. We've been watching film of Dodd. We've been going all the way back, not to get our guys prepared for Malcolm Perry, but to get them prepared for the bounce back, getting back to the fundamentals, getting back to the basics. Those are the things that we're expecting from Navy this year. I know everybody, you guys do a great job of picking, who's going to win a conference. And then if we win the conference, you guys look great. But if we lose the conference, then we look like we failed. So people have picked them not to do well in their conference. Well, that's not affecting the way we view it, because historically, when they don't do well, watch out. It's like a dog backed into a corner, and that's the preparation we're kind of getting ready for.
Hey, Coach, Pop put out last week on social media kind of indicating that he wasn't going to be able to play this year. I haven't seen any updates on that. Can you provide any insight, any update on what's going on with him?
Yeah, we're obviously, we don't get into injuries, whether that's physical, mental, emotional, whatever it may be. But he's working through some things, and hopefully we get him back here sooner than later. And we're going to make sure that all of our guys are healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually before we put them out there. So we'll get Pop back. Actually, he's here. We'll get him back rolling soon, and hopefully we'll be able to truly announce where he's at when he gets to a point of that for us.
And keeping with the running backs, Rasheed Ali is the guy that we'd seen over the last couple of years, and he had flashes. What did you like the best about him that he and Sheldon are basically 1A, 1B going into this weekend?
I think the biggest thing for him, and you probably won't see it, he doesn't know how good he can be. So when you have a player like that, and I'll say this, but I'm not comparing the two. Saquon Barkley had the same mentality when he was a freshman at Penn State. He had no clue at how good he could be. What that creates, and I'm not comparing the two, but what that creates is a coachable kid. Meaning everything you say, he's willing to listen to, he's willing to try, he's open to learning. When you have kids who, whether they're rated 5 stars, 10 stars, or whatever you guys decide, when they already know that, it's hard to coach them because it's hard to get them to understand you can get better. Ali has no clue, and that's a good thing. And he's open to coaching, he's open to learning more, he's open to trying it the right way. He doesn't have a gauge of, okay, well, this is the 80th play in practice, so I'm going to run a little easier because I know we got 50 plays left. He doesn't have that mentality. He goes, and that's going to help him, one, mature faster, and two, be a better player in the long run.
Hey, Coach, how do you ingrain in your guys the intangible that the guys are going to play Saturday?
everybody says, oh, there's a big physical football team. I mean, when you say that about Navy, that's just true. I mean, sometimes the game is the easiest part of their week because what they've chosen to do at the academy. Have you tried to kind of instill that in your kids that they, honestly, God won't quit for 60 minutes, that kind of thing?
I mean, obviously we know. I mean, there's not too many college football teams that quit. I mean, everybody works hard. Everybody plays hard. I think those are cliche coaching statements. You know, every team plays hard. Every team is physical. It's a physical game. I do emphasize to my guys, because of what they do, they stay consistent. Like, they don't allow to get wavered and have the ebbs and flows of a game based on, well, that play didn't work. Well, they're going to run that play another 17 times, and they're going to believe at some point that play is going to work. I think that's the difference. And obviously, we've talked about it early in preparation. The respect for what they do, the respect for not only their football schedule, but the respect for their academy commitment, if you want to call it that. But it's more their belief in their system, and their belief comes from tried and true over time. You watch them over time. You break up all of their explosive runs on offense. Well, it's the same run. Well, then you break up all the negative runs. Well, it's the same runs. So they believe at some point that their plays are going to work, and they stay committed and true to that. And that's what we try to get our guys to understand. You may stop the play the very first time for, a negative run or -2 yards. But that's not going to get them off that play. It's not going to get them off that system. Same thing on the defense. You watch them over time. They're very consistent. They believe in their offense, so they don't get wavered on the other side of the ball and say, oh, my gosh, we got to blitz every play. We got to try to do something different. They have a consistent approach on all three phases, and that comes from, in my opinion, the head coach.
Coach, winning it seemed like penalties were an emphasis when we got to see you all on Saturdays in the preseason against Navy. How much more are those magnified simply because of the style of play that they have and how possessions can really be limited?
Yeah, I think, in any game, penalties and turnovers are going to be a glaring statistic. If you win the turnover battle, you got a pretty good chance of winning. Against Navy, if you put yourself in disadvantageous positions with penalties, you're helping them. We talked about it early in camp. You jump off sides, it's 1st and 5 with a Navy offense. That's going to be tough to kind of get them off the field without at least getting another first down. Impossible? No. Tough? Yes. So we talked about it, and just not putting ourselves in positions where we are hurting ourselves, whether that is through assignment or through discipline. And that's something we've kind of harped on for a very long time around here. To me, discipline starts in the morning when you wake up, you brush your teeth, you make your bed. And it carries over to going on the hard count. It carries over to, blocking the right guy, running the right route. So hopefully we can consistently be disciplined across the board, and that will allow us to execute. And if we can do that, I think things will go well for us Saturday.
Coach, this is Bill Wagner from the Baltimore Sun and the Annapolis Capital newspapers. How are you?
My guy, I like you guys. I'm an Orioles fan. I mean, it's killing me right now, but
Where'd you go to? You go to North Carolina High School?
I went to North Carolina High School. You guys don't even report down there. You guys didn't even realize I was there. A gem, a 5-star, underrated guy. Never got any pub, but it's okay though.
You had to start Democrat to come coach.
There you go. You're right. You are right. Star Democrat, hometown paper. Big Sunday morning.
You mentioned about Navy's defense. The coordinator, Brian Newberry, has a reputation for being very aggressive, doing a lot of different things, bringing blitzes from all sorts of angles. I'm sure you've seen the tape, plenty of tape on this. What's your thoughts on what he does defensively?
Yeah, I think Coach Newberry does a really good job. And I think when you watch him, obviously he's a phenomenal coach, and he puts the pieces in place to be successful. But when you watch him, I think he does a really good job of playing off of their offense, meaning he knows that offenses are going to get limited possessions. So if he can create a little bit of pressure to kind of get them off schedule, it kind of makes them a little more anxious, which plays into their hands. And I think through his coverage complexity, I think through his pressure, the stems, the slants, the angles, all of those things create anxiety for offenses because offenses traditionally want to get out and go fast, score points, move up and down the field. They don't want to sit on the side for 6 minutes and a quarter, get one series, and the next thing you know, it's halftime. And I think if we aren't able to control the emotion of we have to score in one play, that's where his defensive complexity really comes in and puts pressure on the offenses.
Last for me, they've had a quarterback battle. It appears it's between Arline and Lavatai. There's tape on Arline that you can see a little bit about what type of player he is, but nothing on Lavatai. How are you approaching that situation?
Yeah, we're preparing for both. I've been doing this a long time. Coach Saban taught me a long time ago. Anytime a team doesn't announce a quarterback, that means one, they don't have one, or two, they're going to play two. That is what it is. I believe Coach has done a phenomenal job of preparing his team, and I think he honestly has two quarterbacks that he's going to play. I think one has a little bit more of a runner's mentality, a little bit more of a slasher, and I think another one has a little bit more of a throwing, bigger body, downhill runner. And I think what they do, there's a position for both of them. You know, I don't think one has to kind of take it by the reins and try and do more than what he can do. And I think Coach is smart enough to use both of those guys to create an advantage for them. So we're preparing for both. You know, which one runs out there first, that's for you guys to write about for the next 4 days, and all your message boards will blow up. But we're going to prepare for both, and we'll hold our defense on the side until one runs out. And then we'll decide if we're going to run Shane Simmons out at outside linebacker or DN, or if we're going to run somebody else out. That's how it works.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man.
Anything else?
Yes, Andrew Sanders, a guy that not many of us know anything about, wins the kicking battle. What did you like best? Was it a consistency aspect, a longer leg? What did he do to beat out Shane there?
Well, it was actually because he came from the Air Force, so we figured if we were going to play Navy, if we had a better chance of having at least an Air Force guy on our side, maybe the Air Force cadets would show up for us. No, they battled through camp, and it was close. It was really close. We thought just over time, not necessarily, you know, that one percentage was so much higher than the other, but just, you know, lift on the ball, you know, distance, you know, contact speed, just those things we thought, you know, we felt like, you know, Sanders gave us the best chance in his first game. I'm not one of these guys that say, hey, once you're a starter, you're in there for, you know, for the rest of the year. I think Shane has done a phenomenal job in camp as well. Just his first game, we thought Andrew gave us a little more pop, you know, on the ball, and hopefully he's able to be consistent enough, you know, to help us in this first one. All good? Well, guys, I appreciate it, man. Look forward to seeing all you guys in Annapolis, and travel safe and go Herd.